All right. Um,
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabriella, and this is Box. Um, so today we're going to be asking you some questions, and feel free to answer them however you like. Yeah. So Fox, you want to get us started?
yeah. First of all, I would just like to ask who made which film because I don't know the names. So
So I'm Tayo, and I'm the writer and director of I Am Leo.
all right.
Sorry, your mic wasn't working, so we couldn't hear you.
Yeah. We might kick this off again just because we had a little technical difficulty at the top. Oh, don't you love technology? Okay, let's see.
Can you hear me now?
There's an echo.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay,
That's much
sorry.
better.
That's my
Nope,
headphone.
that's much better. So I'm gonna as soon as I pop away, just go ahead and kick back off again, and we'll just dive right back into it.
Right. All right. So oh, and then Tony, what was the film you made?
Oh yeah, I'm Anthony Chercia I'm the actor Birthday Boy.
Cool. And then because your mic wasn't working,
Oh yeah, I'm B, and I directed and produced Motherhood.
all right. So I had the chance to watch a few, the films that I was told to watch. I watched I watched Motherhood and Mama Has a Mustache, but I'm not sure if the maker of that is here. So I guess I can kick it off with my questions for both. So I felt like you did a really beautiful job of capturing like these very intimate and like genuine moments. How many days were you there filming? Like, was it a couple weeks? Was it just a few days, or you know?
In total, I think we had 7 shoot days across a 2-week period, and then we went back for a couple of reshoots a few months later. But I've known the family for a few years and stuff, so obviously that really helped kind of create that sense of intimacy. And I'm very good friends with Jack now as well. So yeah, it was only 7 days, which definitely didn't feel like enough.
Thank you.
I just want to ask, so this is kind of like a broad question for everyone. You all did something so amazing. You made a film. That's such an amazing achievement. So after you did all that work, put, body, mind, and soul into it, what was your feeling afterwards? How did you feel afterwards?
Well, I would say exhausted and proud.
Same here.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it pretty well.
I mean, it was the first time acting for me, like the first time ever professionally, and I was kind of lost at the beginning, but then I got a hold of it, and after that, I was really proud of what we all did, and also proud of myself because I was able to do something that was really hard for me in the film, and yeah, it was a lot of work, but after seeing the results, it was like amazing.
Yeah, definitely exhaustion. That was the overriding emotion, I think. Because I don't know about anyone else, but we shot during COVID as well, so it was that extra level of exhaustion of all the kind of extra things you have to do as well. But I think proud is I like to think I felt like that. I feel like I must have blocked it out.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. Do you want to ask another question, Fox?
Yeah, that actually connects to my next question is how did COVID affect any of the filmmaking process, and what were some struggles, if any, with COVID? This is for anyone.
I can go first if you want. So my film was shot during COVID. It was in autumn 2020 when we shot it, but this was more in the beginning. And I think it was just really a lot of mental stress, like, because there was always the possibility that somebody will have COVID and everything will just be blown up. And so I think there was a lot of stress, like before, okay, will this work out or will it not? And then just like, I think 3 days before shoot, there was a ban for hotels that you couldn't accommodate people. And we had actors from different cities who were supposed to come to us and sleep in a hotel. And so this was like a huge problem. And I really, at that moment, I thought we won't make this film. Like, they can't come. But our solution was then that it was mainly affected our main actor, that they actually slept then at my place. So they slept in the room, like just across this room, and was like here at my place. So we could shoot this film. So yeah, but then it worked out. Everything worked out, and nobody got COVID. So it was just like before, a lot of stress.
I think for me, the impacts of COVID were predominantly that I was the only one allowed in the house with the whole family. So basically shot the whole film by myself with my producer. My co-producer was basically like, we didn't meet until after the film was finished because of COVID, which was wild because we shot about a year ago. So April 2021. And in the UK at the time, we were meant to be shooting in February 2021. And we couldn't shoot it and we had to delay it by a couple of months. But actually that, I think, strengthened the story a lot because we had to wait longer. We had to be more organized about it, and ended up being able to film around Jack getting top surgery as well, which I think was added an extra layer to the story, I think.
Well, in our case, it wasn't like something that impacted because it was before COVID, but I really can imagine doing like all the filming and producing everything during COVID, because if per se it is a really tiring process and it's a stressful and it's exciting, I can imagine like having it with COVID going on.
Sorry, Hunter, you just joined. Sorry. The question was, how did COVID impact your film?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was having a little bit of technical difficulties, but thank you for having me. The only way it affected me personally, it was that we were really close to wrapping up the film right before the pandemic hit, and so I feel like it would have come out a lot sooner in general, just because for those who've seen it, I'm the protagonist and I'm 19 in the film, and so now I'm 23 and the film came out last year, and so that's how long the pandemic kind of delayed the film. But I'm still happy that it came out either way. Better late than never.
Okay, so my question is, as some of the videos, a large majority had a lot of diversity, a lot of people from different cities, different places, and just like different lives. So what was it like working with people from around the world.
Well, here in Panama, that's like something really common because there's a multicultural culture, and during the film, we got to interact with Panamanian people. I'm from Venezuela, but I've been living here for about 8 years. From El Salvador, I think it was Honduras, and I think Colombia too, and a lot of people in general from different cultures. But yeah, since we've been in Panama for a few years already, or a few months for some people, uh, like the interaction between cultures is just normal. But it was interesting.
I guess everyone in my film is in a family together, so it's not necessarily the same. But the kids are half Mexican, so it was quite important to kind of subtly bring that into the film through kind of lots of bright colors and the artwork that's just like everywhere in the house and stuff. We had to cut out quite a lot of the conversations. There was one part where they tried to teach me how to speak Spanish, which didn't go very well. Mainly, they told me how to say lots of dinosaurs in Spanish. But I think that just, it just adds something different, I think, as well, to have that.
Hunter, do you have something to add? Because I don't think it applies for my film.
Well, I definitely resonate with everyone else's answers. Yeah, I just feel like I personally didn't worked with a lot of people in California, and so we did capture a lot of like the heart of Los Angeles, at least from my perspective. But I felt like that brought a lot of familiarity in other cultures as well, and also brought something new. And so, yeah, I think that I definitely agree with everyone.
When I was watching the films, I was curious about like after after filming and after going through and editing, is there anything you wish you could have filmed more of?
Want to go first, Bea, because you instantly nodded.
Yeah, everything maybe. There was a couple of specific shots that I wanted to get that I wasn't able to. Little things like Jack and his oldest son are going through puberty essentially at the same time at the moment, and I really wanted to get kind of a little bit more of that. I think anyone looking back at their film can see like all of the like mistakes that we see as filmmakers that like no one else will notice them. And yeah, I think more of everything, to have more to pick from. But I think there's one scene, I'm not going to say it because I don't want anyone else to notice it, but there's one scene that I wish everyone was mic'd up better in that scene.
Yeah, I think for me it was because we were shooting with kids, and so you have like very, very limited time. You have like 5 to 6 hours a day where you can work with them. And so I think there's just sometimes we had to like leave out some shots. And there are especially like I think 2 scenes where I wish I had like a shot of Noemi reacting to something, and we just didn't shoot it because we had no time. And also, well, I wouldn't say any more of it, but the film actually had a different beginning, and there is a scene we left out completely because it didn't really work. And so maybe if I would have time to shoot this scene again, I could have started the film the way I intended it. But I think it works. It also worked like this, how it is right now.
Well, for Birthday Boy, it was funny because the film was completely different at the beginning. Like the idea that the was planted was completely different, and then it evolved into the final version that we all love. But if there is something like one scene or two scenes that I would like I would have loved to see, would be one that was really kind of difficult for me to film because it was really hot, and we have to be there like for 20 minutes or so. And the other one, more because of the art department, it was we have this scene with a puzzle, and it was a huge puzzle, and the art department was like, yeah, we have to do this puzzle, and they took took a lot of time to do it, but at the end it was cut, and everyone was like, "Where's the puzzle?" But it was awesome at the end, like the final version. We all love it.
Yeah, I definitely have my list of things that I wish I could change. My film was animated, and so that's something that I don't want to change. I've always loved the art of animation, and so I'm very honored that my film is in that format. Um, but the things that I wish I could go back on is just showing more of. You can only show so much of a big transition in your life in 5 minutes. Um, but like if I could make it longer or, fit more in there, I would have loved to fit more of like my birth father side of the family or more places that I visited as a kid in Los Angeles. Cause I did a lot of places that a lot of people knew, but like one big thing that I forgot was Universal Studios. That was like a big thing in my childhood. And that's like little things that I'm like, oh, I should have drawn that or stuff like that. But you can only do so much.
Great. Thank you. So my question is, after all your films and everything, what new like experience about ideas and experiences either about yourself or about other people or just in general did you learn and did you discover after making your film?
Well, I think this was very huge for me because actually through the making of the film, I realized that I am non-binary. So this wasn't so. Didn't have like this label before, and then I worked on the film and thought like a lot about my childhood. It eventually clicked, and I thought, well, I'm non-binary, so I learned a lot about myself.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much. I mean, it was the first time I'd self-shot anything. I'd kind of I'd worked on projects before, but I'd never been the director and the cinematographer and the sound recordist all in one go, which was obviously partially COVID and partially just the way that the film had to be made to make it as intimate as we could. But I definitely learned a lot about cinematography and quite a lot about plasticine as well in researching like props and stuff, which was not something I thought I was going to learn about. And just, yeah, I think a lot of the technical stuff for me, I'm sure I learned plenty about myself, but apparently can't remember any of it at this point. But yeah, plenty about cinematography. I think I learned that I'm not bad at it. I thought I was beforehand, but I got a lot more confidence in myself because of it, I think.
Couldn't remember. Did you already go, Tony?
I was actually going to ask you if you want to go.
Oh, okay. Okay, I guess I can go. Thank you. I definitely learned my preferred art style because I drew everything in my film. And so I kind of like I did like playing around with art, in my journals, and that's kind of what the concept of my film was about. Um, but learning, like drawing everything for the film, I really like learned like my preferred style and stuff like that. And I also had personal journeys of like um you know the film helped a lot, but I feel like throughout I got a very strong relationship with my immediate family and stuff like that. And I feel like my overall quality of life, film or not, I felt like um it improved. But I feel like the film in a way documented that, because in some ways, in some drawings, that you can like see where parts of like my life I was struggling. Some drawings are a little rougher than others, and I feel like it's a good accumulation of the project I've done throughout the years.
Well, I'm really glad like everyone got to get this growth from their films. And in my case, I think it was also learning about filmmaking because I was always interested in that, but not really like research or like learn about it until that point. And like I got to see all the process inside of a film, and also for like a personal point of view, like a personal growth, it was I have to do stuff that made me really dysphoric at the time, but doing that kind of stuff during the film also helped me to like kind of reduce the dysphoria after that for certain stuff. For example, wearing a dress. I think now I can wear a dress without a problem, like in a funny way, and it wouldn't really affect me. But at that time, it was really something really difficult. And also like trusting the people that I work with because they are well amazing. All of them were super amazing about it, and they understood everything. They were really prepared to work with a trans person that was actually going through transition, not even hormones, but like social transition, and it really helped me out. All the validation I received at the time.
Yeah, thank you. One of my questions was like, before making the film, what was like the biggest thing you wanted to accomplish with it? Like, what is the thing you had in mind for your film?
I know mine off the top of my head, so I'm happy to go first. I wanted to make people laugh. Like that was the biggest thing for me. I wanted to make a film about like trans identity and queer identity that wasn't sad. I just really wanted to, yeah, show the joy as well, that I think we all experience that the media sort of runs away from sometimes. I think.
When I start the film, like I wanted to like my acting. I wanted to like make it something that people could identify with and feel less alone because I know it is a real difficult process, and sometimes it can feel really lonely, especially when you don't have like a lot of representation in the media that is positive. Because I remember watching a few films and stuff back then, and it was all really sad and really depressing. So when I got proposed the idea of acting in the film, I was like, yeah, let's go for it. I would really love to see something positive and something like actually gives hope to people with that have been going through difficult family issues with all the transition, and give them hope that actually things can get better and get support from their families too.
I think I wanted that people have empathy with trans kids, and like to take them on this journey and watch the story and then feel it, and have empathy, and so in a way to better understand what some trans kids might go through in puberty, and also and also to educate people, and especially kids, because I made this film with a audience of 10 to 13 years old in my mind. So it was a lot of what just showing kids, there are more possibilities than being a cis boy or a cis girl, you can like explore yourself. So like education was also a bit of it.
I love your answers a lot. I definitely agree that like my a little bit, there's a representation in mind. And everyone has seen Los Angeles at some point, but I feel like my film just shows a side of Los Angeles that people don't really see, the kind of things you see as a local. Some things that you see kind of born if you're born and raised here, like people who sell locally on the street, street vendors basically, um, and it's also for me personally, it'll just be a great capsule for me, just because journaling has been a passion of a great therapy of mine for a long time, and so seeing this film just is it's just a way to keep me humble. I feel like just because it's just a good thing to look back on, um, and if my story impacts other people, then that's just a bonus.
Hi, Sally. You just came into the meeting. The question was, prior to your film, what is the big idea you wanted? What was your film, the main idea you wanted your film to have?
Mama Has a Mustache was my film. And hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. I related to what I think B was saying about wanting to do something that just was not necessarily so heavy, and talk about these issues around especially youth and sort of alternative gender identities in a way that was fun and playful and not preachy, opened up conversation, maybe asked more questions than giving answers. That really was my goal, and just to sort of see what kids think. I mean, kids are so inherently wise, that I just, it was so fun to get to just enter the world of sort of their imagination and curiosity. So I think it was more the questions that I wanted to ask rather than kind of like the messaging that I wanted to make or to do.
So I don't know if you just heard, but the question I was just asked was, what is the main idea you wanted your film to have prior to making it?
Is this a question for me?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. Apologies for the delay in arriving. My name is Shalise Haas. I'm the director of To the Future with Love, which was written and illustrated, and Hunter is who you met, Hunter. And I think for me, this film was both about Hunter's story, but really also about the process of making the film. The process was really collaborative, and I think for me there was a lot of excitement about the process of working with Hunter to bring his story into this animated space, to provide the resources and the skills and the tools to take the story that he wanted to tell and bring it to life in a way that our team had the skills to do. And so I think for me as a filmmaker, to facilitate kind of that storytelling process was really exciting. And as a queer filmmaker, I think we have so many stories that have yet to be told. And so the opportunity to facilitate that process with Hunter was really a pleasure.
That's great. Thank you. Your answers were so amazing. My question kind of ties into that question a little. So mine's like a two-part question. So when you were creating this film, who was your main target audience? And then also, if your audience could have had any takeaway, what is the one thing you wanted your audience to have stick with them? When watching your film, what is it like? What did you want them to feel? What were the emotions, the ideas about gender, about their own identity that you wanted them to have?
First, I wanted people to feel love, but not like romantic love, more like the love that you need from your family, from your friends. And also, I wanted people to feel like they are not alone, like I said before. And also, like, create more questions about it, like the whole trans identity, which is something that I think we managed to do too. And the relationship, like this whole process, because being trans and transitioning is not a solo process. It's you take a lot of people with you, and your family is like, okay, if when they get to the process to uh it can be really tough. So this is like a little window of what it's like, which is usually a question that a lot of people have, like, oh, what is your family saying about this? I'm like, well, they are okay with it. Like, it was difficult at first, but then it got better, and that's it. And it's usually, and hopefully it will be like that, like in the future too. Like, yeah, it can be difficult because it is a huge change, and changes are difficult, but we will get through this, and it's going to get better. Also, I have like 10 minutes left of my lunchtime, so I might not be able to stick around for longer.
I think that kind of ties in. That's just really lovely. And I think it kind of ties into, I guess, our feelings going into making motherhood was, yeah, the idea that I think that a lot of the media demonstrates about trans identity within families is that someone in the family is going to have a problem with it. That's sort of the only representation that I think a lot of us have. And I think I kind of first said it as a joke, but I think it's kind of true that it's basically the idea that I wanted people to go away from the film with was like, the kids are all right, like they're fine. Just because their parent is trans doesn't actually, negatively impact their life. It matters that they've got that love, like you were talking about, Tony. Like, that's what matters for the kids in this dynamic, is that they have their parent there caring for them. And I think my target audience, I think it's sort of, I think I sort of wanted different things for different audiences, if that makes sense. Sort of, I think it's really important to me that other trans people see the film, and see that positive representation. But I also think it's important that cis people and people outside the queer community, or in different aspects of the queer community, see it as well, because I want them, with it being quite a light-hearted film at a lot of times and quite funny, taking away that positive kind of association with a trans story, and hopefully, if they like Jack, they'll be nicer to other people, kind of thing. So there's a level of education, but not in a direct way, if that makes sense.
I think it's, for me, I have some same thoughts, I think, because also that there are like different takeaways for trans kids and cis kids, I think. I think for trans kids, it's just to feel seen and represented and see themselves on screen, and because it's just like a wholesome experience to see yourself. And for cis kids, I want to start a conversation about gender identities and have empathy, like I already said, and also like if there's one specific thought, well, thing they can learn maybe is that not everybody who menstruates is a woman, and not all women menstruate. So this is like one one line maybe they can learn from it. So.
Oh shoot, I had a train of thought going. Dang it. Someone go before me. I'm gonna come back to this. Hold on.
I can go. I don't know if this was so much necessarily a message that I set out to sort of to make with the film, but it's certainly been a takeaway of, I think, a lot of audiences watching the film, and it's certainly been one of my takeaways in screening the film, which is just that, I mean, I always knew this conceptually, but really experientially, that gender really, really is a moving target, and I think especially for kids. The kids talk about in the film, and then also, you know, child audiences when they see the film, just how they feel different every day. Some days I feel like a girl, some days I feel like a boy, some days I feel like both, some days I feel like something else altogether. And sometimes it changes by the hour, even by the minute. And I think for me personally, it was interesting to kind of hear kids saying that and then gradually realize that I feel that too. And as I said, I always knew that like in theory on paper, but to feel it actually really personally in a new kind of more visceral way has been really, really interesting. And I hope that it's, you know, one thing that makes the film and watching the film sort of a freeing experience, is to realize that it isn't just a question of figuring out our own gender identities, whether they're inside or outside of some kind of traditional box. It's really a question of maybe figuring out how we feel on any certain day, and then realizing that that can be open and can change by the second.
Thank you. I love your answer. It was beautiful. I wrote it down this time so I can answer. My message can really apply to anybody, at least the message I'm hoping people perceive. But I think it applies especially to trans kids, because personally, even though I never really pictured myself growing up as a woman, I still don't know what my future is looking like. And that's okay. And I feel like I feel like it's okay to have your own path and still be open. Because it's, you know, life is it's so cliche, but life is just crazy. And it can end. And so it's just, you know, everyone has, even if you have your life written out, you know, it's okay to just make marks and cross it off, and rewrite your story.
I love that. I think there's so many things for me that resonate for me in Hunter's story that I'm hopeful audiences also feel. And I think the first is really the joyfulness and the wonder, and at times the optimism that Hunter expresses in his story, without shying away from the parts of life that are really hard. The film is 7 minutes long, and one of the challenges that we had in even in the edit, right? Challenges, but a good one, was that in 7 minutes, the story takes you from these very high highs to these really low lows, and then back up again. And that, from an editorial and a music score perspective, had creative challenges, but I think from a viewing experience feels really true, right? And I think so often stories about queer folks, stories about trans folks are either very limited to, it's really hard, and let's talk about all of the trauma that can be very real for many people, and is true, but often leaves out some of the joy, or can be at times, I think, let's like not talk about the hard things and just focus on something that we're trying to sort of display only our best selves. And I think what I really appreciate, Hunter, in your telling of this tiny piece of your story is that it really encompasses so much of that lived experience, and also how much of your story is both about it can be about so many things all at once, right? Family, love, partnership, gender identity, place, class, lived, all these parts of lived experience that are really the definition of what it is to have an intersectional experience or identity, or that that an intersectional approach to sort of the way our identities are really complex. And I think the fact that we were able to fit that in 7 minutes sometimes is really remarkable, and felt very, very authentic.
Well, I have to leave now, but it really has been a pleasure to be here and to listen to all your answers, because they have really brought again some of the feelings that I had back then when we were filming. And thank you so much for being here. So bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I had a very technical question. It's just like, did you have your title for your film in mind before filming, or did it come to you later in the process?
Yeah. My a kind of funny story-ish. I don't know if it's funny. I'm not sure what's funny anymore. But I told Jack what I wanted to call the film, and his reply was, that was the title of my PhD thesis. So I'd come up, I'd been talking to Jack about making film. I'd been kind of doing the pre-production, and then I thought of the name, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this. Especially kind of the emphasis on the other. That was kind of originally inspired by basically when you have to fill out any kind of diversity form, or like any kind of form, and it's like man, woman, other. And then when Jack said that was actually the title of his thesis, I was like, okay, this is definitely what we're calling the film. So yeah, that was probably one of the first things I came up with, actually, kind of creatively. And I think it helped actually having that in mind when we were kind of in production and sort of thinking about the angles that we were going with, if that makes sense.
I usually feel that I'm so bad with titles. Like, I won't have one until the very, very, very last minute. It's constantly changing. It's a total hot mess. But this was the first film I ever made where I felt like, where I had the title before I even made the film, years before I made the film. When my daughter was 2, she said, "Mama has a mustache." And I thought, oh, that's such a good title. There has to be a film made just so that it can so that it can have that title. So
our title came quite late in the process, and I think, like Sally, I really struggle with, because titles feel so important. And this title, actually, Hunter, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but for me, it was really inspired by something that Hunter had. This film started with the idea that we were going to animate Hunter's journals that were already written, these amazing journals that had writing and collage and drawing and just extraordinary, that Hunter had shared with me early on. And we thought about animating them. And for various logistical, practical reasons, it was very hard to create animation from something that couldn't be pulled apart into individual pieces. But in these journals, is it okay if I share, Hunter, about your letters?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
So Hunter had written himself letters to future Hunter and then sealed them in envelopes and put them in his journal. So they were written from Hunter of this moment to Hunter in the future. And no one could read them. They were all sealed up for some time in the future to be opened. And I just thought that was the most beautiful practice, right? To speak to yourself, and to give your own, to know that you have wisdom to share with yourself in the future. And I loved them, and I thought, I had always hoped there was a way to get those, that sort of idea into the film. And though film went in a different direction, that always felt really inspiring. And so the idea of To the Future with Love came from these letters that Hunter had written to himself, to his future self.
I never knew that. Thank you. And that's so funny.
So for me, I think we had the title before the start of production, but only after I wrote the script. And we always had just a working title, and then we had a crowdfunding campaign, and we were okay. We have this title to promote this film, and I think I struggled with it, how to call it, and it's a little bit different in German, because in English it's I am Leo, and in German it's weil ich Leo bin, which means because I am Leo, and I think in English I am Leo just sounded better. And yes, I'd call it this because at the very end of the film she says, "But you're still Leo," and then I thought of maybe I could just call it I am Leo because I'm Leo. So not so deep, but I think I like the sound of it and the feel of it, that it has to do something with identity, I think, and yeah.
Thank you. That was great. My question is, you did this amazing thing, and I'm guessing it wasn't the easiest thing to do, because in this world, even as we are progressing and things are changing and it is getting better, it's still so scary to share something this personal, and even to direct something personal. So to people out there who are afraid to share their stories, whether it's on film or whether just in general, what is your advice to them?
I think that a lot of good stories come from personal experience, like from anybody, not related to queerness or anything. So I would always encourage people to tell personal stories, and because I think that it will make people understand and have empathy with them. But of course, you have to make sure that it won't hurt you if you tell the story, and yeah, maybe have backup, have people you can talk about. Oh, yeah, make sure that you're okay with it to share it. But I think it's always beautiful to share something personal.
I think what I was going to say is kind of related, in that I think the biggest thing for me is that I think vulnerability is people like it when people are vulnerable. If if you're opening yourself up in kind of whatever sphere that is, people will potentially, like, there is going to be more of a trust there, but also I think vulnerability is really, really, really powerful. But also, you don't have to share every single aspect of yourself within the process of creating whatever art you're creating that's personal. I think it's often quite healthy to keep some of it to yourself, and some of that process to yourself. But yeah, vulnerability is probably one of the most powerful tools I think we have within film. I work predominantly in documentary, so obviously vulnerability is particularly powerful there, but yeah.
I was going to add, I mean, I think sort of an obvious one that we all know is to always follow your passions and, you know, do work that you're passionate about, because it's so hard to make a documentary that if it's something you don't really care about, it's extra hard. But I was also going to add, you know, maybe a less obvious one, which is, and I think it's gotten easier as I've gotten older, but not to be afraid of controversy. You know, I think especially as younger filmmakers, we want to make something that people are going to like, and you know, we want to please other people with our films and our work. But I guess, you know, definitely as I've gotten older, I think it's just become more about, yeah, asking certain questions, maybe provoking thought and conversation, but less about like, will they like it, you know? And I think when we kind of embrace that, that's usually often when we do our best work anyway, when we sort of care less about what others think.
I'm not really sure I have an answer that will kind of add to what everyone else already said, but apologize, I can't think of anything. But I do agree with what was already answered.
Maybe Hunter, can I just ask you another quick question? Maybe if you feel like you want to answer it. As an observation, when we had one of our first screenings in person with a public audience, and Hunter was there, and also Hunter's parents came for the first time, and sister, and they saw it for the first time. And I think one of the things that really struck me was that though this film is reaching audiences all over the world, and so many people neither of us have ever met, there was something really special about that moment of sharing the film with the people closest to you who are also in the film. And so I'm curious if you wanted to say anything about that experience, because it was so personal, and in that moment you were sharing it with the people closest to you.
Yeah. I guess it was a little bit when you're witnessing the people, you know, that you care about see it does feel different than a bunch of strangers, you know. That realization hits differently, but I feel like it's just more, I just cared more about what the people in my life thought rather than what people in the world thought, because you know, the I knew putting my story out there, some people would resonate with it and some people wouldn't. But what concerned me the most is what my family thought. But I was really happy to see that, you know, they saw my story and they understood, you know, my struggles, especially, you know, when it came to them. And so, you know, and we're still working those issues out to this day. But it was really nice to know that, you know, they still supported me, especially showing that that side of the family that's really personal. Yeah.
Okay. I think that I think that's the question we'll close on. I just want to say thank you so much to all of you, because as I've said before, this definitely wasn't easy. And thank you so much for putting your experiences out there, because I know that so many people will have their lives changed, will be so majorly impacted by this. So thank you so much. And you were just all such amazing people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting and facilitating. It was really wonderful.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Yeah.
Thanks for answering some questions. It's nice.